Welcome to the next video in our series of videos to learn to code for game development using Roblox. This is going to, of course, help you learn to code in general and specifically how to become a Roblox game developer, a game scripter, if you will. But you can also pick up a lot of what we're putting down on this series and apply it to multiple other game design, game development formats, game engines, all sorts of stuff. That's the plan anyways. Without further ado, let's go ahead and roll the intro, get started. Alright, in this video, I have Roblox.com pulled up. We're going to go ahead and install Roblox Studio. We're going to go over some of the basics that you need to know about the studio to get working in it. And then we'll go ahead and rewrite our first program that we did, or a new program, I guess, within Roblox Studio, similar to what we did on the last episode. So to get going, again, we want to go to Roblox.com. You are going to need an account, so go ahead and start that account up. I believe there's specific age requirements for some things. I'll leave that up to you to check out. I don't really know the specifics or care about those at my age, but what we want to do once we're on here is we need to go to this Create tab. When we do this, it's actually going to pull up a different site called create.roblox.com. This should use the same account that you have logged in here. You'll see a lot of different options. We don't really care too much about most of them. What we do want to know about right now is our Studio quick link over here on the left side. I believe there's just a massive button right here as well if we want to do that. So you want to go ahead and click that, download and install Studio. If you've never installed a program, that's outside the scope of this, but this is pretty straightforward. It's going to open a wizard for you and say, where do you want to install it? Go ahead and get that installed and then meet me back here. All right, so another thing we want to do once we are on here is actually take a look up at the top. They've recently changed the page, which is nice. It includes all this stuff here. We want to go ahead and click on our documentation. We'll go to overview for now. But you'll see that this is a really handy page to have. I tend to have this open all the time just because it's pretty nice to find things when I need them. This little magnifying glass, your little search symbol here, is going to be your best friend for a lot of things. I just want to make sure that we have that open, and that's a good thing to know about. So let's move over to Studio itself. So when you first open Roblox Studio, you should get a page like this. Basically with new, there will be my games, recent. If you archive anything, you can do that. You can go through the tour, of course. This is a nice option to get you going though. So we have our blank base plate. There's a classic base plate if for whatever reason you want to do that. Even just a flat terrain, which is basically generated terrain. It's a very specific thing inside of Roblox that we'll talk about in a future video, but not in this video. But essentially it's just grass is what that is. You can also use one of Roblox's starting templates that they have. For the most part, we're not going to be using any of these. We might visit one of these in the future to take a look at it, but we're going to go ahead and just start with a fresh base plate project. When you click on that, this is creating let me actually close my little window here. This is creating a new project for you that isn't saved anywhere. So this is just temporary open at this point in time. Yours is going to look a little different than mine because I have a test window open. I'll go over that here in just a second too. But what we want to do first is make sure that we are saving this so we're able to save all of our progress. Ideally, you could save it to file, but we want to save it to Roblox itself. When you do this, it's going to pop up this window here, and we can just call this whatever we want. I'm going to call it YouTube just to have it short there. If you are part of a group, you can select a group that you're part of. It's just going to be me in this case. If you know specifically what kind of game genre your game is going to be, you could select that as well. That helps with discovery and the algorithm itself. In most cases, you'll leave that at all, and then if you do have a specific genre you're going for, you can always edit that later on. Same thing with the devices that the game is set up for. Personally, myself, I tend to design as this way, so I'll go ahead and leave that. You can do team collaboration if you want, again, if you're part of a team. If you're not, you could turn that off and it can kind of help with some things, but for the most part, having it on is nice because you get this autosave option too. All right, so we'll go ahead and save that. All right, now that we have our game saved, we can get working on some stuff. I'm not going to go over the depth of Roblox. Or Roblox Studio, I should say. There is a lot of videos out there that will probably do it better than I will. I will, however, real quick talk about things that we're going to need to do our scripting in Roblox Studio. So number one, we need an output window. This is our console that we can compare to our last video. And to do that, we're going to go to View, and you'll see you should have Explorer and Properties open. That's these windows here. If you don't, of course, that's what these buttons are for. You can also make sure to have the output clicked. That will open that window. And we want to have the command bar clicked here as well. This command bar is really nice because it lets you insert code directly into here without having to create a script. That's what we're going to do right now, as a matter of fact. Let's recreate our last program where we printed Hello World to the console. So in this case, we're going to click in our command bar, make sure they have that selected. I'm going to type in print, and you'll notice now we also have some auto completion going, right? Just by typing P, we get a bunch of different things. R now prints the first thing that comes up. Another nice thing in here is it's actually going to tell us exactly what a lot of this stuff does when we have it highlighted in here. So prints all provided values to the output, and you'll see that it gives you a breakdown of what things are. Also gives you this Learn More tab, or a link that will open up those documentation files, or the documentation page that I showed you earlier, but it will open directly to what that does. So you can use your arrow keys, or while something's selected on there with the lighter highlight, right, you can just hit tab on your keyboard and that will fill that in. In a lot of cases, it will fill in extra things that go along with it. In the case of print, that includes our open and close parentheses. So now to print a string, remember we need our open and close quotation marks. And again, by doing one open quotation mark, our editor is doing a lot of work for us, auto-completing. It'll give us the corresponding close quotation mark, so you can see how this can really help speed along your programming. So we're going to go ahead and type in hello world. We'll use our exclamation point as well to make it just the exact same as it was before. And now we can hit enter on our keyboard, and this is going to print to our output. So you'll notice this is going to be a little different because it's also going to show us what we typed in the command bar here, and that's denoted by this little arrow. But the actual result of what we typed is going to be printed beneath that, and that is the hello world. So there we go. We just wrote a command there. Now, what is the usefulness of this command bar when you're doing things like this? I can actually use code in here to directly manipulate things within Roblox Studio without having to create an actual script for it. So we're not going to go too deep into that today, but that is something that we can work on another time. So in the output, I do want to go over another thing, and that is the clear button here. So this little broom icon, if you click that, it will clear the window for you. You're typically not going to have to worry about that. However, if I run a bunch of commands in here, you'll notice that this is not clearing the window, right? So I can clear that. If you're running a script, you have to run the game to do so, either by playing it or using the run command, and that will clear the output window every time you hit that and then do whatever it's going to do. So let's get into it. So on our right side in our Explorer window, yours might be somewhere else, by the way, you can drag the name of a window somewhere, and depending on where you're docking it is where it's going to show up. So I like mine like this, although this is a little compressed because I have my window a little smaller for recording versus the giant 4K screen, because that makes it a lot harder for you guys to see. So in this case, we're a little cramped down, but that's okay. So I want to talk real quick about where to put scripts. So there are 3 different kinds of scripts you can have in the game. You can have, we'll go ahead and click a plus sign over here just to show them. If I say script, so here's your 3 different kinds of scripts. So you have a script. I prefer to call these server scripts just because they make more sense that way, but just a basic script. This is going to run code specifically on the server, and the server is basically what's running the game. A local script is going to run on every player's client, every player's computer, or console or phone or whatever they're using. By the way, a console and a phone are also a computer, in case you didn't know. But basically these scripts, anything in these scripts will only run on a player's computer, not on the server, and it runs for every player's computer individually. So one player will have their script running completely separately from another player's. So depending on different actions they take, it may do something different than someone else. And then there's a module script. Module scripts typically end up containing code that can be used from other scripts, but it also is great for compartmentalizing things, creating classes. There's a lot of stuff the module scripts go into. That's going to have its own video because that's a lengthy thing to go into. But for now, we're going to go ahead and just create a script. Now, I don't want to put this in the workspace though. That is actually bad to do. A server script should most often than not actually live within this folder here, server script service. So this is a great service to contain all of your actual server scripts. I also recommend making sure that you are staying organized. Organization is key for finding things, keeping things nice and compartmentalized from each other. So you can do a lot of that by doing folders. In this case though, we're just gonna do a simple script. I'm gonna actually go and rename this. I just hit F2 while this was selected to rename it. And I'm gonna call this first script, why not? And you'll see when we started this script, it immediately did the same thing that, again, I mentioned in the last video, a lot of editors will do. They'll put whatever it takes to print hello world directly into that script. So we don't have to type that for us, right? Which is actually what we were gonna do anyways, but now you can see hello world here is in this script. You'll see these two lines. That's something I set up based on Lua's style guide. We'll go over that in the future though, so don't worry about that if you don't have that. But what I do want to point out is that we have our number lines here, and that's something I want to point out when we actually run this. So you'll notice my top bar actually contains 3 different play buttons, and those correspond to the different play options that you can do. If you go beneath your play button, you can click on that and you have play here, and run. I'll quickly go over what those do. Play, of course, plays the game, so it will spawn your character in at whatever spawn point you create or is in the game, and then you can play the game, run around on it. That's going to allow you to see the full utilization of any server scripts, any local scripts, and so on. Play here basically means that no matter where you have placed your camera in the viewport window, if I click play here, my character is going to spawn right here where my camera is, as opposed to off of the spawn location. So that's something to note about that. And then finally you have, open this back up so we're in our script window. Finally you have the run button, and run is going to not spawn a character, so there's no local scripts or anything that would run on that, but it is great to kind of quickly just load the game up and get any server scripts to do anything. That's what we're going to do here. So we're going to hit run, and you'll see that the game is running, which you can see with this green outline along our viewport here. But also down in our output, you can now see that we have our printout hello world. So it's coming from our first script on line 1. That's what this means here. You'll also notice this little green icon. So this is a great place to show you. If we go over to our different options on our output window, which are these 3 dots, you can show or disable a timestamp. Yours might be different depending on how you have yours set up by default. I don't remember what the default is. This is what mine are. So showing that shows you exactly when that line of code was printed, or whenever that output happened. Could be an error, anything like that. So you can actually see what time that occurred, and that is based on your OS's time. And it is in military time or 24-hour format. And then you have the context, which if I click that, it shows you if it was coming from a server script, or the client, right? So if it's coming from the server or from the client. I have this disabled only because it's a little excess. The fact is, a server code is anything in the output from the server is going to be with green here, and anything that comes from a client, from a local client, is going to actually be blue. So they're already color coded, so I don't really need the context to show there. And then the show source is what that extra bit there is for. I like having that because I can see directly where that line is coming from. You can hover over that and it will give you a little underline, and you'll see it also says server script service dot first script, and that's where our script is located, server script service first script. We can click on that. It'll take us right to the line that it says that this is doing. We can also hover over hello world, right, where whatever printed out, and it will also tell us where that script came from, and we can click on it and it'll take us to the same place, right, if I click on it there. So let's go ahead and stop the game. And again, you'll notice this doesn't clear out, which is also very handy. You can stop the game and still reference things in here. However, I do want to know that if you, for example, make any changes, let's say, hey you, and we run again, it first clears the output window and then it will run any scripts that it needs to, right? Also, while the game is running, I can still do things here as well. And it will print out and do whatever it is. I can manipulate the game world. I can do all sorts of stuff while the game is running from the command bar here. So that's another good use for it. All right, let me go ahead and hit stop. So in the next video, we're going to go over specifically the differences of server script, local script, module script, server client communication if we need to, or lack of communication more specifically. As well as doing something a little more complex than this, which would be referencing things in the game world. Alright, well thanks for watching, I'll see you there.